What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this one, we have how India saved Russia and derailed China's superpower hope. I honestly thought China was already a superpower, but I guess not. Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to support this channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is smash that join button and receive your exclusive benefits. Mr. Shabda, talk to us.
Will India and China go to war in 30 years? And Atharva says, is a Russia, India, China RIC alliance possible? Okay, so will India and China go to war in 30 years? India and China could go to war next weekend or next month or next year or sometime in the next decade. 30 years is
Yeah.
too long a time horizon for India and
Yeah.
China going to war. As India rises and as China stagnates, the Chinese may become desperate and look for, and um, look to give their people a reason to keep supporting the Chinese Communist Party and whoever is the Chinese emperor at the time. Right now is Mr. Xi Jinping, who is the de facto emperor of China. China is not doing well anymore. Understand that. Like I said, there is a complete realignment of the global geopolitical system at work right now. It's happening right now. So what is happening? What is happening? It's all being triggered not by the Ukraine conflict, but something that happened a couple of years before that. What happened 2 years ago? What happened in late 2019? There was a virus that spread across the world, right? The coronavirus.
Yes.
Some people call it the Wuhan virus, the COVID virus, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
The Wuhan coronavirus, the pandemic, which first the reports first came out in 2019, and then 2020 was a disaster, 2021 was a disaster, 2022 right now we were limping back to normalcy kind of, and then
Yeah.
Ukraine happened, the Ukraine conflict
Yeah.
happened. So what did the coronavirus pandemic do? Whom did it hurt the most? It sent the whole world into a recession. It rendered millions, maybe billions of people jobless. It destroyed economies. It caused all kinds of chaos worldwide in every nation, in the first world, in Europe, in the US, also in China, also in India. Lots of people suffered. Millions, hundreds of millions of Indians, like, they barely survived this kind of pandemic, not because
Yeah.
of the illness but because of the shutting down of the economy. It was a disaster
Mm.
worldwide. India, of course, did much better than the other nations in supporting its population. Anyhow, that's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different story. So the coronavirus pandemic brought ground China down to a halt, the economy.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
put out some numbers that looked encouraging, but now we see that China is not doing well economically.
Oh.
The bigger problem it caused for China is the complete shutting down, as more or less, of the One Belt One Road OBOR initiative, or the Belt
Mm.
and Road Initiative, the BRI. So what is the
Uh-huh.
BRI thing, right? Let's take a look at the OBOR and BRI and all that. Let's take a look at that. That was
Okay.
China's great bid for world domination. It was their great bid for superpower status. In 2008, the Chinese decided that now is the time. Now is our time for trying to become a superpower. Our time is now, and we have to grab the chance. So they launched this One Belt One Road initiative, which was supposed to connect China through Central Asia to Europe.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Dang.
it also had a maritime, the maritime Silk Road component, which would connect China to all these other nations, including Africa. So they would get cheap resources, minerals, and all those things from Africa. They would use African labor, and they would also build a massive connectivity with the whole of Europe, and that would
Okay.
integrate China's economy with the European economy and other things, and that would be what leads China to becoming the number one
Superpower.
economy in the world, and that would ensure that they become the superpower and the US declines, right?
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking that you can have multiple superpowers in the world, and I guess it can only really be one top, of course, superpower, and that would be the U.S. at the moment as the number one superpower in the world. Uh, but China had this plan in action, and China was like, "Hey, we get this going, we taking over, we getting that number one spot. It's us, it's our time." But from what he said, it sounds like timing just wasn't there. It sounds like COVID came in on their One Belt One Road initiative and shut it down and said, shut it down now, and that stagnated China. That COVID, it sounds like COVID stopped them from getting that superpower status.
But so that was the great hope, the great ambition of the Chinese. The coronavirus pandemic derailed that. It derailed that. All the work stopped in these regions. Then you had the Taliban thing, which happened in Afghanistan. The Americans withdrew from Afghanistan. That set the whole place for some time into chaos, right? There was a lot of
Yeah.
instability there. So that also contributed to the slowing down, to the grinding to a halt of the OBOR thing, right? And now we have the Ukraine conflict. So once again, this Eastern Europe region is completely paralyzed. You don't even see planes flying too much over the region. And now
Dang.
further, you have the energy crisis and the food crisis. These have been essentially created
In
artificially.
China?
Yes, you blow up pipelines. You try to impose price caps on Russian petroleum products. You impose sanctions on Russia. You ensure that no food grains flow out of Ukraine and so on. It's going to cause a global energy crisis, a global food crisis. Is who is it going to affect the most? Europe is going to suffer this winter. We know that. It's going to affect the
They
global
did.
south even
They
more, the
did.
so-called third world. Africa is going to suffer. Africa is going to suffer. And China seeks a great amount of resources, minerals, and other wealth from Africa, and cheap labor as well.
Mm,
So that is not going to work. So this has
dang.
essentially derailed China's superpower.
It's just kind of crazy to listen, like, as to me, who never really learned about any other countries outside of the United States and how, like, everything works in accord all over the world, and how China was trying to build this One Belt, One Road initiative, and it was shut down. And so that being shut down, and then the Ukraine and Russia war really hurt China. That really hurt them, and now they were no longer able to get that cheap labor and those cheap minerals and everything from Africa, which hurt them. It's like they had the plan in place, and it sounds like the plan was a solid plan. Sounds like they had the right plan in place, but I mean, things happen. Ish happens. And their plan did not go according to plan because other obstacles came up and basically shut down their strive, their path to superpower, to
Ambitions,
world domination.
right? So that's one thing that's happened. The other thing the Chinese are hoping for is that as a consequence of the Ukraine conflict, which Mr. Putin started, well, but he started it in retaliation. That's a whole different story. I've spoken about it a long, many times. So China's great hope was that as a consequence of the enormous, massive US sanctions on Russia, Russia would have to come begging to China for help. And then Russia would become China's vassal state, a junior partner, and China
Mm,
could then impose very one-sided conditions on Russia, and then reduce Russia to another Africa. Use Russia for
dang.
for resources and
Right.
cheap labor and all that, and enrich itself at Russia's expense. So that would again boost China's superpower ambitions, even though the OBOR seems to be dead. So the Belt and Road interface is already like it's collapsed,
Okay.
but Russia could serve as the counterweight to that. So
Okay.
China was hoping that Russia would become their vassal state, and they could use Russia to enrich themselves and become a superpower. The problem is this: despite all the sanctions, Russia is thriving. First of all, they've done well with the ruble. They've attached it to the price of gold. The ruble is the gold standard now, so the ruble is doing well. It's in demand and all that. And secondly, as soon as the sanctions were imposed on Russia, they found they found an ally. That ally was India. India
Yeah.
overnight increased its oil purchases from Russia 50-fold, 50
Yeah.
times. So that way, Russia did not have to depend on China, right? And once the
Dang.
other thing that
I
happened,
didn't know India increased they buying 50 times. I knew they was buying Russian oil, which I have no issue with because it sounds like Russia gave India the best price on oil, and so what's India gonna do? Turn down the best price on oil and go buy it somewhere more expensive? No, doesn't make sense. India's gonna get the best deal for their people. So, hey, y'all giving it to us at a better price. Well, we're gonna up our order. And I guess so. Them up in the order 50 times. That's a lot. It put Russia in a position where they did not have to go begging to China. They were good. They were like, no, we're Gucci. Yeah, I thought we were gonna need y'all. No, we're straight.
is that India revived the what is it called, the uh, north-south transport corridor between India, Iran, and Russia. Let's take a look at that. NTSC, North South Transport Corridor. What is that? Okay, a statutory warning as always. Wikipedia is not a reliable source of information, but
Yes.
just for convenience sake, I'm putting this up over here. The International North South Transport Corridor is a multimodal network of all these things between India and Russia. The starting
Okay.
point is Mumbai. One endpoint is Mumbai, the other endpoint is Moscow, right?
Okay.
It passes through Iran. It also passes through Azerbaijan and so on. So, this is the thing.
Okay.
So because of this, because we have restarted this, it's going to again act as a pressure release valve for Moscow, for Russia. So India is buying massive amounts of petroleum products from Russia, mainly crude oil, 50 times more than it was doing. And India is restarting this thing, which the Iranians essentially had stopped. Now Iran is also cooperating with India and Russia in this.
Oh,
So India ensured that Russia does not have to go begging to China.
smart
Russia
of
is now
India's
standing
on India's
on its
part.
own with the help of India and Iran. Yeah, that's what's happening. So India is not entirely broken, has not entirely broken off with the West. India is still part of the
Yes.
Quad. India is still part of various initiatives with the US, the I2U2 initiative. So India is now acting as a bridge between between the East and the West. That's what's happening. And India is now emerging as a major power because of all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
actions and all these decisions it is taking. Yes, it is vitally important today for Russia, the existence of India. So India is now, whether you like it or not, some people may disagree with me, India is now a great power. It's already become a great power. But obviously, this is a very dangerous situation for India. India is still a reasonably small economy, 3 point whatever, $3.6 trillion GDP, and our military might is also not that large. It's something that's proportionate to the GDP. We do
Okay.
have nukes, which kind of helps us. So that is the situation we find ourselves in. Russia is not collapsing. Russia is not going to be balkanized. Russia
Nah.
has enough strength of its own, and
That's
India is helping it out
that's what
when
it
it comes to the
sounded
economy
like.
and all that. So because of this, the Chinese find themselves kind of sidelined.
Yeah.
None of their hopes, aspirations have worked out for them.
All plans went down the drain. All the thoughts and plans they had for their future and all the divisions went down the drain. Things didn't turn out at all like they expected things to turn out, and so now they're like stuck. Like wrong timing, wrong timing.
They are not going to become a superpower anytime soon. Their economy is crawling. Their Belt and Road Interface initiative, whatever it is dead in the water. They have not been able
Hey,
to turn Russia into a vassal state. Russia is strong. Russia is stronger than
yeah,
before. Yeah, whatever you're hearing in the news, please don't trust it. Don't trust the Western media, and don't trust the Indian media, which is echoing the Western media. So this is where we are. India and Russia have emerged stronger out of it, but we have major threats now. Now, though, the US looks at India also essentially as an adversary. But yeah,
yeah,
it anyway looked at India as an adversary. It simply
yeah.
wanted to use India for some time as a counterweight to China.
There you go. There, that's it. Simply wanted to use India for a while as a counterweight to China, but did not want India to rise in power to challenge the U.S. in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And so it's like, yeah, India's now looking at India like, hold up, or U.S. is now looking at India like, hold up, like, hey, y'all don't get too big over there. Don't grow too much over there. We need y'all to stop China from doing that. But if y'all start doing that, then now we gonna have a little bit of conflicts. Is what it sounds like.
Now all these things happened. They are now focusing on Russia because Russia scares them more than China. China is now no longer rising as it would have or should have. So that's where we are. So we are seeing the belligerent response of the US. They are trying to shake up the entire global economy. They are printing billions and trillions of dollars, and they're raising interest rates, which is destroying all the other economies. The euro has crashed. The pound, the British pound has crashed. The yen has crashed. India and China's
Hey,
currencies have gone down 10%. So yeah, they are trying to sow chaos in the world. They have created this artificial fuel crisis and the food crisis. So that's what we see. So right now it looks like India, Russia, China, Iran, may have to band together in some way or the other. But India and China can never ever be allies. Can never be allies. At best, we could have some kind of arrangement of convenience like we have between Russia
I
and
feel
China
that.
today.
Yeah.
Russia and China, if you look at the map, they can never be allies because they share a long common border and a disputed border. It may not be
Yeah.
disputed right now, but it's a dormant dispute. The Chinese would like to reopen it whenever it suits them.
Yeah.
uh,
I
yeah, so
feel
Russia
that.
and China share a very long border. It's been a border on which they have fought. They almost went to nuclear war once. Russia had decided to nuke
Jeez.
the Chinese. And the Americans saved the
Really?
Chinese. So India and China also have this long undemarcated border. We can consider the Nepal border as also as the India border, and so on. So yeah, India and China can never ever be allies. We can never have a good relationship as long as Tibet is in Chinese hands. But there could be a temporary, arrangement of convenience for some time as long as a bigger enemy threatens both. Uh, so essentially, whether some kind of arrangement between Russia, India, and China happens or not, Iran will also be involved if it does happen. So whether such an arrangement or some temporary alliance happens or not, all depends on what course of action the United States takes. If the United States, if the US does things that threaten all these nations at the same time,
Oh yeah.
then you could have these nations banding together, coming together for some time,
Yeah.
in order to withstand the threat together. Yeah,
The,
but if the US is smart enough, they could play one nation off against the other,
that's
and
what they're
there are
gonna
lots
do.
of
Yeah.
tools they have in their toolkit. Yeah, they are past masters at divide and rule. The US is an extension.
That's what
It's a
I'd
continuation of the
say.
British Empire. The British were renowned for their divide and rule policies. So yeah, that's where we are. Is
That's what it looks like through a lot of history. You don't see the U.S. getting their own hands dirty too often, but you rather see the U.S. working behind the scenes as puppet masters, making things happen, and to where the rest of the world sees what's happening, but U.S. citizens we be blind to it because they never really talk about it. Um, and so U.S. are usually like puppet masters in pitting countries against each other, or hey, the government knows how to pit the citizens of the U.S. against each other. So yeah, I don't see the U.S. actually like getting their hands dirty with anybody. I would see them going through different type of means to get the results that they want.
an alliance between Russia, China, India possible? Most likely not. But yeah, if the US forces everyone's hand, then these nations may come together along with Iran, which is a very strange assortment of bedfellows, But yeah,
Yeah.
it could happen.
Eh,
But do not ever make the mistake of thinking that India and China can be friends or have good relationship, or have a good relationship as long as Tibet is under temporary Chinese occupation. Simply can't happen. But yeah, we could have some kind of alliance or arrangement of convenience which would be temporary in nature.
There you go. You strategic alliance, right? They're very temporary. Like we just got a common enemy right now, so let's come together. Let's deal with the common enemy. Then it's back to we not cool. You feel me? It's back to we got issues. It's back to beefing between us. Um, but yeah, y'all talk to me in the comment section. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think there could ever be a temporary alliance between the three nations and Iran? Or do you think that's just out of the picture because of the history these three nations share with each other? I think at the end of the day, most governments are going to do what's best for their people, and if you got to push history to the side and say, you know what, we got the temporary line, then that's what you got to do. Y'all talk to me in the comment section. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Check out the next one. I'll see y'all next time.